What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. 78 days out today, so 11 weeks and 1 day. Had a new low weigh-in of 172.6 pounds this morning, which is another drop of 0.2 pounds from the day before. The last video I recorded was 2 days before recording this one. I was 174, which is already a big drop. So I've had a couple of large drops recently, which is good. Bit more than I'd like, but you got to bear in mind, like I said in the last video, sorry, I had a deload, and from a deload you tend to drop fatigue anyway. Mix that with the fact I was on rest day food, so my glycogen stores were lower. So yeah, that's most of the weight loss, plus probably a bit too much fat. But it's fine. It just means that I'll be able to take it easy after this next few weeks. Originally, I think the goal was to get to about 160 for stage. I think I'll be closer to 155. So the extra weight loss is welcome. So the goal now is for the next 5 or 6 weeks is to still be quite aggressive, still aim for 1.5% of body weight loss per week, so 2+ pounds. And then after that, we've got 5 weeks then to take it a bit more easy into the show when we're feeling our worst. And also the worst case scenario of dieting too fast too soon is that we just end up maintaining and holding sooner. So it's not a bad thing as long as you maintain performance. Horrendous sleep last night. So yesterday was the first leg session back after deload, and obviously, like I said in the last video, taking 2 sets off every session as it is. And then after a deload, I usually do a devolume where I take an extra set off each exercise. So it was quite a low volume session. With all the compounds like the hack squats and the leg press of 1 set. But because of that 1 set, it makes you kind of go in with that all or nothing mentality. So I gave each set everything I had. So it's an absolute phenomenal session. Not always progressions, but it won't be because I was 4 pounds down from last week. But just the way the muscles felt, everything felt really, really, really good. However, I don't know if you guys get this as well. If I haven't trained legs for, well, in this case, a week, so it wasn't even that long. I started getting like cramps in my calves going to bed last night, and about midnight they woke me up. And I tried everything. I tried rehydrating, I tried adding electrolytes, I tried having extra salt and potassium. I elevated my feet onto the end of the bed for like an hour. Nothing was working until in the end I had paracetamol, which seemed to take the edge off, and I got back to sleep. So I've just not had that long of a sleep, so I feel absolutely battered, more so from sleep than the diet. But I still do what I need to do. So I still did my hour walk today. So on a weekend I tend to do like 15 minutes an hour walk just to get steps off in the morning. As you can probably see, the weather is absolutely horrendous. I was going to record this introduction whilst walking along the prom on the coast, but the waves were everywhere. The wind was blowing all over, so I thought I'm not getting my phone wet. But it's done now, so 1 meal down. I'm not going to record my food today. Well, I might record some, but it's not a full day of eating, because you've seen this in the couple of videos back where it's exactly the same food. So meal 1 was raspberries and whey. Meal 2 is my oatmeal, which is pre-workout. Chest and arms on the cards today, so it's going to be a good session. I'll need caffeine, and I'll probably take 1 or 2 scoops of stim free as well. So for now I'm going to go home, enjoy meal 2. I've got some boring chores to run, but I'll see you guys in the next clip. Right guys, so we are off to the gym now to do a push and arm session. Last week I did film it, but obviously I did the voiceover about deloads instead. What I'll do this time is I'll just see with time. I've only got 2 hours to get in, do the training and do cardio and posing, because I've ended up taking too long to get ready. It's one of them days, been too busy. But I'll do a voiceover covering the training, why I do what I do, talk about the exercise order. Basically, I'll just talk about the best way you can set up your training and how I do mine, and the reasons for why I do what I do. Bear in mind that everything I do, every set I do is training to failure with good form. Obviously, sometimes you'll see a ref and you'll think, oh, you could have got that, but yeah, but if I'm throwing my back out to do it, then I'm not doing it. So that's that. So I've already had a scoop and a half of Naughty Boy sick pump, and it was sick. It's like, I can see me itching my face now. That's the beta-alanine, so it's a 0 caffeine. But on pushing arms, I do like getting a pump, especially now I'm in prep as well. Like, it's harder to get a pump with the cards being low. But more importantly, I've gone for this. I've gone for Green Monster as my caffeine choice of today, and it's been, I don't know, it's been about, so I'm really itchy. It's been about 6 months since I've had one of these. I'll do a bit of a taste test. I had the Peachy Keen last week, which was, it's probably my favourite ever actually. It's probably about 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10. know what? I'd still say like 7 out of 10. But it's like the opposite. You know, sometimes you remember something and like it ends up being nicer than you think. This is exactly the opposite. Like, it's not as nice as I remember. Yeah, 7 out of 10. But anyway, I shall see you guys in the gym for push. Right guys, welcome to another voiceover. I will be doing this off the bat with no plan, so it might be a little bit all over the place. But I train each body part at least twice a week over a 5-day split. So lower, upper rest, push, pull, legs, rest. And this is the push session. And as you can see, I start off with my lateral delts. Usually I do a cuffed lateral raise, but the machine was taken, so I'm using this, which is a good piece of kit, to be honest with you. As you can see, I've got the wrist wraps on, and that's just to brace the elbows so I can use the weight there. I just find that much better connection with my lateral delts if I do this. Give it a go. I do this machine first, or I'll do lateral delts first, just because they don't take away from the rest of the session, and I can give them more focus and intensity than I would at the end of the session when I'm knackered. So it warms up the rest of my body for the push session to come. Usually I'll do about 3 sets of this. Again, today's a D-volume, so it'll just be 2 sets, and everything I do is to go to failure. So this is the first main compound exercise, a high incline banded chest press. So the main target muscles of this are my upper pecs and the front delts. The reason the band is there is because at the bottom of the reps here is where I tend to find it the heaviest. And if I don't have that band or a spotter, I tend to fail a rep or 2 shorter than I could have. So by having that band there, it just helps me at the bottom of the movement in order to get that final rep. So it just brings me slightly closer to failure, and it keeps the resistance profile nice and even. Some machines don't need it. Give it a go if you need to with your machine. It's a bit of a nightmare to set up, but I just make sure the band and the position of the band is always in the same place to account for any sort of logbooking. Again, I go to failure. I have reduced these sets a little bit just to accommodate for my own body weight reductions in prep. So I was getting to the point where I was doing 4 or 5 reps, which is just a bit too low, and I wasn't getting the most out of the muscle like I could have been. So again, I reset the movements, and these felt really, really, really good today. It was a really good session overall, to be honest with you. Again, you don't need a band to do this, but I just tend to find the resistance profile much better when I do so. I'll call it failure when I can't get another rep without having to take my bum off the seat. If my bum comes off the seat and I'm not locked in like I should be, then I will not take the last rep. At this point of prep, it's not worth me pulling something in order to chase a number. I aim to get the bar as low as possible during this exercise, because as we know with recent research, that the stretched position is the most hypertrophic. So that is the goal with this exercise compared to others. So the next exercise is another incline chest press on a machine this time, just to allow a deeper stretch and a greater range of motion. This isn't as inclined because I want to target more of the whole chest. My upper chest is lacking, hence why I've got so much upper chest work. Again, this is a top set, back off set approach like every other exercise I've got here, but today is only just the 1 set due to the D-volume session, but every set is taken to absolute failure without being an idiot on the last few reps. Then beautiful facials. Next up, we have my first tricep compound exercise, and the best tricep compound exercise is by far the dip. I do this on a prime machine. Obviously, it's still going to work a lot of the pec, but in this case, it'll be the lower pec, which I haven't really fatigued just yet. The reason I use a prime machine is it allows me to load the machine at the lengthened range there at the bottom. So it allows me to make the most out of that stretch position. We know that as we fatigue a muscle, or muscle groups in general, throughout a session, our ability to get short is harder because our muscle becomes weaker and weaker. So by focusing the weight at the lengthened position, it allows us to get more contracted reps before we fatigue, so we can actually fail at a lengthened range. So we just get more bang for buck out of the muscles. If you don't have one of these machines, a normal dip is absolutely fine as long as you hit failure. But if you have got one, you might as well make the most of the equipment you have. And that is that for my compound work. So now we have some isolation work. Usually I do a cuffed clavicular fly because I can get a really high incline on it for my clavicular part on my chest. Again, the machine was taken, so there's no need to worry and wait half an hour for a machine when you have other options available. So this is a decent piece of kit from Arsenal. It's an Arsenal incline chest fly. It's not as inclined, but it did the job. I just make sure to spend about 2-3 seconds in that stretch just to make the most of the stretch position where your muscles are most hypertrophic. Again, every set I do is to failure. This used to be 3 sets, but this is one of the exercises that I've brought down to 2 sets just to accommodate for the fatigue increases during prep. And then after this, we go straight to arms to finish the day off. So the first exercise is a single arm tricep extension. And this is an absolute amazing exercise. As you can see, I use a cuff just to save my wrist joint. No worries if you don't have one of these. A single arm rope attachment or even a dual arm rope attachment and just hold them both with one hand will do absolutely fine. Again, if you have one, just make the most of the equipment you have. The goal with these is to use as little body momentum as possible and just use your triceps to initiate the movement and spend a good second or two at both the short and the lengthened range of the motion to really squeeze the most out of your triceps. The last few reps of this footage you will see use a little bit of momentum, and that's just to make sure that I squeeze the most out of the triceps, but I still aim to really control the eccentric portion. As you can see, the details in my arms are slowly coming out, but I've still got a lot of work to do before we step on stage. So the first bicep exercise of the day is actually a seated preacher curl. Now I haven't done any sort of pulling movements today, so the ability for my biceps to get short is still quite high. So that's why I focus on this machine first, because I can get fully short with a good resistance profile at that top end there. And again, I aim to go full range of motion where I can, just to make the most of the full resistance profile. I go to failure, but with this it's important to make sure your feet stay planted, your hips stay planted, and you don't bring your hips forward to try and chug the weight back. And you just literally squeeze your biceps as hard as possible to get that full range of motion. And then my second and last tricep exercise is an overhead tricep extension. Again, use as little momentum as possible. With these, you really don't need to put the rope right at the bottom of the stack, because then it's a nightmare to drop at the end of the position. So what I do is I put on a clip where I can literally just let go of the rope at the end and it won't end up dropping the weight. Just for a little piece of advice. You also want to make sure you go full range of motion of here. A lot of people don't bend their elbow enough. I try to make sure I go all the way down and get full range of motion where I can. Obviously, if you've got elbow issues, play it around that. But I find that my elbows actually prefer it when I do full range of motion. If I stop at a 90-degree angle, my elbows take all the weight and then end up doing more damage than if I didn't. So for my second and final bicep exercise of the day, and my final exercise of the day altogether, I do another bicep curl. Now usually I use a cable, single arm cable bicep curl where I stand away from the machine so I can really focus on that lengthened range of the movement. However, again, it was taken. This movement is quite similar. At the bottom is where it's absolutely the hardest by far, and the short end is actually quite easy, so it's a great way of finishing off your biceps. And again, I go to failure. All my arm exercises are 3 sets. There were 2 sets today due to the devolume, but they're all usually 3 sets. I do a high rep set first, at 15 to 20 reps on all arm movements, and that's just to get a lot of blood in the muscle. Still aim for failure. And then my second set is usually the heavy one at 6 to 8 reps. At the moment, it's 8 to 10 reps, just for prep reasons. I don't want to pull something. And then my third set is usually a 10 to 15 repper, so it's still quite a high rep. And to finish off the day, here is some posing. I do apologise for the camera angle, guys. I've noticed that there's 2 black lines on either side of the screen for the Gym Forge, and that's just because I'm recording in 1080p for the Gym Forge instead of 4K, so I'll fix that next time. But if you have any questions about my training, let me know in the comments below. I will do a full video breakdown on my exact split and exact reasons as to why I do what I do. But in the meantime, like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.